Hey there, Krista Lindstrom here from Mortgage Simple. I'm here today with Jason Kennedy from Hawkings Tinney, and we are going to talk about something that I just learned about, the Bear Trust Agreement. So welcome, Jason. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Awesome. I have a list of questions here for Jason, and hopefully we can get some answers to this Bear Trust Agreement that is a new word in my vocabulary, but it has some pretty big impact on some people. So, Jason, can you maybe tell us what a Bear Trust Agreement is?
Yeah, you bet. So anytime you have ownership of an asset, but you don't have the beneficial ownership of that asset, it's what's called a Bear Trust. So examples would be having your name on a bank account that doesn't belong to you. So maybe you have a senior, maybe a kid. Second example would be if you co-sign a mortgage and you have your name on the title of the house. So anytime that, and assuming that house belongs to the kid and you were just helping out with financing, that's a Bear Trust agreement. So in those situations, it's not a taxable issue, but since December 31st, 2023, we now have to file tax disclosure to the government.
Okay, so knowing that, who needs a Bear Trust Agreement?
So it is the responsibility of the trustee. So anytime you are the individual who has a name on the title of something and doesn't actually have the beneficial ownership, that's who needs to have that agreement and file the actual T3.
Okay. Why did the government implement this Bear Trust Agreement? Why did they cause so much havoc in our world?
Well, I mean, like usual, it's taxes. What they want to do is they want to make sure they don't miss any taxes. And so what has happened in some of these trust agreements is it would be, let's say, an investment account. So kid has their name on an investment account of a senior mom and dad.
Okay.
So when mom and dad passes, because their names are also jointly on title, that investment account simply transfers to the kid, and it doesn't go through probate, and so the government may or may not get their pound of flesh if they don't know about it. So this makes us tell them anytime there's a situation that you have an asset in a name that you don't technically own, that way it can't just transfer to you without them knowing.
Okay, so that brings me to the next question. Is there a dollar limit before a Bear Trust Agreement is required?
Yeah, you bet. So it's $50,000. So is the line. So any bank account below $50,000, any asset that you hold that is below a value of $50,000 is exempt from this.
Okay, so those of you who have a bank account with your children, that's collecting their allowance, they don't need a Bear Trust Agreement. But for all of those clients of mine who adult parent has co-signed a mortgage, that's a value over $50,000 and a Bear Trust Agreement is going to be required.
Exactly.
Okay, fair enough. Who can write a Bear Trust Agreement?
Well, anyone can do it. There's kind of a few steps that need to be done. So you may want to talk to an accountant about the filing needs that you have, but if you wanted to tackle it yourself, it is something that is possible. You just have to kind of do 3 steps. You have to go online and get a account number for this specific trust. You have to then do up an agreement which will have a list of what the asset is. It'll have a list of who the beneficiaries and the trustees of this trust will be, including dates of birth and SIN, and then it has to be signed by the trustee. So you need that document, and then you need to file a Schedule 15 of a T3. So lots of steps, definitely something you want to do your homework with if you plan on tackling it yourself, but any accountant would be able to help you with it.
And I'm assuming you might be able to help as well, seeing you volunteered your time to teach us.
I am doing lots of these. Obviously, this is wide-reaching. I mean, we all know lots of people who've helped to get out and co-signed on a house. We know lots of people who have senior moms and dads and names on bank accounts. So this office is doing tons of them, and we'd be happy to help if people want to reach out and contact us.
Perfect. I will include Jason's information below. When is the deadline to file the Bear Trust Agreement?
So these agreements are on a calendar basis, so they all end December 31st of each fiscal year,
Okay.
each calendar year. So you have 90 days from that point to file them. So that's going to float depending on if you have a leap year, obviously. But
Okay.
So 90 days after December 31st.
So the deadline is coming up here at the end of March, beginning of April then?
You betcha.
Okay.
The only nice thing we have this year is because it's so new, they have decided to waive any late filing penalties, thankfully,
Thankfully.
for this year, given that it's not been a lot of notice, a lot of people don't know about it, and two, it's in the middle of tax season, so you get all these accountants
Overwhelmed.
not all that happy about the deadline they've set.
Yeah, I didn't even know of such a thing. Now all of a sudden I read, I'm like, okay, and the deadline's the end of March. Oh, and by the way, there's a penalty if you don't do it. So it's nice to see that there's some leeway. I imagine, though, the leeway isn't going to last forever.
Yeah, no, this will be a one-shot deal. Like next year, there will be penalties, and the penalty is it's $25 a day to a minimum of $100 penalty, and then it goes up to $2,500 as the maximum penalty. So it is a big penalty, and it's not something obviously anyone wants to pay because most times no one's getting any benefit out of these trusts.
No, it's simply an information situation. Okay. What happens if you miss the deadline? Does it?
Well, nothing happens because they wouldn't even know about it necessarily. But if they find out, then they would assess those penalties.
And those penalties would apply.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't avoid it.
No.
Right.
And honestly, like, the penalties can go up if they decide it's negligence. So, the typical penalties for just being late are the $25 a day up to $2,500. If they determine it's negligence, it can be up to 5% of the total assets value. So it can be bad.
Right.
So
yeah, if you have a lot of assets and you are intentionally hiding things, it can get very nasty for you. So I don't recommend that you do that. Oh, and then my last question, is there a fine if you don't comply? But we already just spoke about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the best course of action is pay some attention to this. If it applies to you, hop online, educate yourself, and get that Bear Trust Agreement signed sooner rather than later. Whether you want to use the help of, Jason or your lawyer or, trying to figure things out on your own, that's your call. But you are aware that this does need to be done sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to us about Bear Trust Agreements. Hope you become smarter, and we will chat with you later. Bye now.